Hi, my name is Jack, and I'm going to be talking about why Chad is a Stage 2 country. Chad would fall under Stage 2 because it has a rapidly declining death rate due to the medical revolution. The medical revolution led to improvements in sanitation, nutrition, and medicine, causing the CDR to go down. However, the economy of Chad did not go up because it did not go through the industrial revolution. Another reason Chad is a Stage 2 country is because it has a high NIR, which means that there are high birth rates. Chad is a Stage 2 country also because of the AIDS pandemic, which is affecting a large proportion of the population. And also, an infectious disease that is affecting Chad's population would be rabies. The amount of physicians per person would be below 50 out of 10,000 people. The expenditure on health in this country would be 13% and above. The amount of hospital beds per person is below 10 per 10,000 people. And healthcare is, since the country is not very developed, is hard to access, and people have to pay more than half the cost if they want healthcare. The population pyramid has a high youth dependency due to the high NIR, and there are more men because it is a lower developed country. And those are some of the reasons of why Chad is a Stage 2 country.
Hi, my name is Rachel, and I will be sharing how Mexico is categorized into a third stage. Mexico has many characteristics that contribute to the country being a Stage 3, such as Mexico at one point had a very high NIR, but now is a moderately declining CDR. Mexico now has an increase of chronic diseases, such as cardiovascular diseases and cancer. However, Mexico's CBR is still greater than its CDR, and population continues to increase. In Mexico, the percentage of AIDS has decreased and only affects 0.3% of the population. In Mexico, there are 10 to 29 hospital beds per 10,000 people. There is also 150 to 229 physicians per 10,000 of the population. Mexico's healthcare expenditures is 5 to 8.9%. In Mexico, the healthcare is private, so individuals have to pay more than half for healthcare, while the lower class has a very hard time achieving healthcare. Mexico's population pyramid is very broad at 0 to 15 years and narrows at 35 and up. This shows that the NIR is still increasing.
Australia is an example of a Stage 4 country because its characteristics include technology development, family planning, and cardiovascular deaths. Improvements in family planning include birth control, better education, and medicines and drugs, as well as contraceptives. The top causes of death in Australia are heart disease, followed by various types of cancer. Australia is also Stage 4 DTM due to its low birth and death rate, which can be shown in the column-like population pyramid from 2016. The AIDS pandemic is not as prevalent in Australia, but it is still most commonly spread near major airports like the Sydney International Airport, Melbourne International Airport, and Brisbane International Airport. Healthcare expenditures for the government are 13%. There are 30 to 49 hospital beds per person, and healthcare is paid for by the government, which pays 70%, and the person pays 30%. There are 300 plus physicians per 10,000 people. Japan is a good example of a possible Stage 5 country. A potential Stage 5 country would have microbes that have evolved and beaten the various antibiotics and drugs, which could in turn create a devastating pandemic or widespread epidemic. Also, more genetic engineering contributes to more viruses and bacteria. These infectious diseases are more prevalent in poorer areas because of unsanitary conditions and the inability to afford drugs needed for treatment. Also, those infected with disease can spread it more easier because of advanced modes of transportation, like advanced air travel or metro transit, so the person would spread the disease faster. The DTM Stage 5 characterizes the country as having a very low CBR because of more women working. The CDR is very high because of potentially more diseases. Also have a negative or even NIR, which is EPG. This shows in their population pyramid, which is a lot bigger than middle-aged to elderly section because of the low CBR. Japan's government expenditure on health is 13% or above, and there are 50 plus hospital beds per 10,000 people. And there are between 150 and 299 physicians per 10,000. Japan also pays for the majority of healthcare costs for the patient. The AIDS pandemic is also not as prevalent in Japan as other countries, but it is spread near major airports like the Tokyo International Airport, which is one of the biggest airports in the world. In Australia, for example, the food can keep up with the population because of the food being manufactured and having the ability to import stuff. But in rural areas, it is more difficult because you have to grow your own food and you cannot import, and there is no manufacturing. And this explains Malthusian and possibilistic views.